even for a moment, without doing work. Everyone is made to act helplessly by the impulses born of nature. People say that the Gita is one of the most read but least understood scriptures in the world. So many people the world over have read the Gita, yet it's one of the least understood. The Bible's really well understood because the Bible's written in straightforward language. If you read a Sermon on the Mount, then there's nothing confusing in there. It's written really straightforwardly. But there are so many contradictions in the Gita that it's one of the least understood scriptures in the world. If a common man, ordinary layman says this, then it's understandable, but great saints have said this, that the Gita is one of the least understood scriptures in the world. Those people who we regard as being the highest intellectuals have difficulties understanding the Gita. And the more we read the Gita, the more confusing it becomes. We read it over and over again and discover something we've never discovered before. The deeper you go into the Gita, then the more confusing it gets, and you have to study even more and more. We discussed Neshkarmya in the last class. It's a stage before you get union with God. Just like you're in an airport and you're going through the doors, and there's a sensor that detects you and lets the doors open, in the same way, when you're at Neshkarmya, then you have nothing else to do, because the doors to God open up themselves. Shri Krishna is saying it in this verse, that it's impossible to achieve Neshkarmya without acting. Very important. One cannot go even for a second without doing work. Everyone must act. People are not born in themselves, but they're born from nature. Nature makes people act. It's impossible to live without acting. If a person says he's not acting, then this not acting is even an act. Because when a person gets elected in parliament saying that he's on neither side and he's an independent, then as soon as the parliamentary term starts, the horse trading immediately begins for him, and he has to select a side during the votes. Saying that you're not acting is like fighting with God. If a river is flowing fast and a person tries to go from one side to another, then he'll just get pushed by the flow. If he's trying to get from one side of the bank to another, he'll get pushed by the flow. And even if he has strong arms, he'll get dragged by the current. If you're just sitting there doing nothing, then your body is still breathing in and out, and that's acting. You'll be using your respiration system. You'll be bringing oxygen into your system, and you'll be letting out carbon dioxide out of your system. You just keep acting because your heart needs to do so it can continue beating. You may be sitting down there doing nothing, but do you know how much your system works when you're doing nothing? Your blood circulation is flowing no matter what, and you cannot stop acting. William Wordsworth has said it really nicely, that the eyes cannot choose but see. We cannot bid the ears be still. Our bodies feel wherever they be, whether with or against our will. Whenever people ask Guruji what's the best English version to read the Bhagavad Gita, and he always says Professor Radhakrishnan's version. Dr. Radhakrishnan has put a footnote for this verse with this quote from William Wordsworth. It says, the eye cannot choose but see, we cannot bid the ears be still, our bodies feel wherever they be, whether with or against our will. Humans are forced to act by nature. If you put someone on a train, then whether he wants to go on the train or not, the train will continue moving towards the destination. Even if a person starts walking to the back of the train will still continue moving to their destination regardless. Guruji was with a big group of people going from Ahmedabad in Gujarat towards Mumbai, and there was a man who was very intelligent, and he said very, very good talk at Darshan, take a hand out, said very nice things, but he couldn't stop moving. He was walking towards the back of the train, and he kept saying he's going towards Ahmedabad. But the train, in fact, was going towards Mumbai, and therefore the person could not possibly be going towards Ahmedabad. So whatever he could have been doing in his mind, he's still going with the train in his body. In the same way, we are living in nature, and nature is a non-stop moving train, where we have the three modes of nature, which are goodness, passion, and dullness. And these will come whether we want it or not. It's inevitable. And when we're in this train that we call life, then we cannot stop doing actions. There is no escape from this. These modes of nature will just keep making us do work. The individual soul becomes bonded because of these three modes of goodness, passion, and dullness. There's a very beautiful mantra related to this in both the Rig Veda and the Yajur Veda. When people invite priests to come to their house to perform yagnas, and they perform the full version of the Vedas, then this mantra comes into it. Tida bador shabdor ravima devo matyam aviveshati datam bhavagu yamam gavi devashogratama vavandita. This mantra, it talks about the soul. It means in three ways the immortal soul went inside the mortal body and started dancing like a doll. Their senses have this means, through this means of exchange, kept the soul tied into nature, but those of godlike qualities can once again experience this immortality of the soul. The words Trida Bado in this, if you look at that Sanskrit mantra, the words Trida Bado refers to those three modes of goodness, passion, and dullness. And it's also referred to here in this verse. If you look at the end, it says Praktajaya Gunaya, the impulses born of nature. It refers to those modes of goodness, passion, and dullness. A human being acts according to the quantities of these three modes in him. Only when these bonds are broken can one see the true form and experience freedom. So whenever you do any action, if you think about it, then you will always fall into one of these three modes: goodness, passion, and dullness. If you want to find out exactly what these modes are, Swami Ramakrishna, who is Swami Vivekananda's guru, has given a very beautiful example. You understand them perfectly. There was a prince who was walking through a jungle, and he was a prince, so it's his nature to wear jewelry and adornments all over his body. Suddenly, 3 thieves came and robbed the prince. The prince lost everything. One of the thieves brought out his sword to try and kill. They said, let's go and kill the prince. The second thief told him to leave it because they had already got so many things out of the prince. The second thief said that instead of killing him, let's just tie him up with a rope. So therefore, the second thief tied him up with a rope, and all 3 of them ran away. The poor prince had been tied up alone in the jungle. After a while, the third thief came and untied the prince. He then told him to come with him because he'll show the prince the way home. So the third thief came back. On the road, as a palace came into the view, the third thief dropped the prince at the beginning of the highway and told him, "This will lead to your father's house," the palace. The prince got really happy with the third thief. He told him, "The first robber tried to kill me, the second robber tried to tie me up, but you untied me, showed me the way out of the jungle, and brought me to my father's palace. You come with me, and I'll introduce you to my father. My father will be very happy to meet you." The thief said no, because whatever you did, in the end, he's still a thief. The thief said that he will show him the way, but he'll have to go alone. The meaning of this, all of this is very beautiful. The prince represents the individual soul. You, me, and everyone else is walking in this jungle of life. The 3 thieves are the 3 modes of goodness, passion, and dullness that come and rob us. We are princes because we are of God. We are descendants of nectar. Whether we know it or not, it's because of God that we have these possessions. So when a prince is walking, sometimes the prince doesn't even know that he's wearing this necklace. Guruji says he doesn't wear necklaces because they make him feel as if someone's grabbed him by the throat. It's because of these necklaces that our throats get bound, and jewelry makes us bound as well. In the same way, we have so many possessions, we don't even notice them. The individual soul doesn't even notice it has so many possessions. At that time, the 3 thieves that rob us, of those 3 thieves that rob us, dullness is the first thief that tries to finish us off. It's slothfulness, laziness. Passion is a thief that tries to tie us up instead of killing us. It says in chapter 14 of the Gita, which we'll see in probably about a year's time, Raja nu gunatkam vida. A human being is always tied up because of this bond. So passion is chasing after things. When you chase after things and think you're to do it, it ties you up. It ties you, that prince up to the tree. The third thief is goodness, that has the incentive to do good deeds, that has compassion for us. It unties us from these bonds, takes us out of the jungle, that is nature, and up towards a path that is God. The individual likes this goodness, these good deeds so much, and asks for it to come with it to the Supreme Soul, but goodness says no, because it's freed the individual soul from the other 2 modes, but it's still a mode at the end. It's still a thief at the end. and one needs to be free from all three modes of nature, of gunati te pashyate. So, in the second part, in the second chapter of the Gita, Shri Krishna said, Tregun Yavishasya Veda Negunyo Pava Arjuna, meaning the action of the threefold modes is a subject matter of the Veda, but do you become free, Arjun, from this threefold nature? This was in verse 45 of chapter 2. Dullness is an iron cage, passion is a silver cage, and goodness is a golden cage. For a bird trying to escape, a golden cage is still a cage. Whatever actions a human does, they all fall within one of these three modes of nature. He falls under each of the three modes in different phases, and he uses the strength of the three modes. How? These three things are not the actions themselves, but they are the things that gives one the incentive to act. And you know what? The incentive is the most important part of the act. The feeling that one is acting himself is a most important part of the act to note. Once this feeling is gone, then the success of the failure of the action does not affect the person, and then only does he get bliss from the action. How can this be achieved? This can be shown mathematically. Karma minus I am doing equals karma yoga. Karma plus I am doing equals accumulating karmas. This is the big difference between karma yoga and accumulating karmas. When acting, if one feels as if they are acting themselves, then they are accumulating karmas. So one should get rid of this feeling that they are doing the thing. In Christianity, there is a concept of the original sin. Adam and Eve went to the Garden of Eden. Eve had the forbidden apple. As a result of this, the world was created, and everything we've had since then has been sin, sin, and sin. In Vedic culture and in Indian culture, there's no concept of the original sin, but if you wanted to create one, then Shri Krishna is saying that if one acts thinking that they are acting, then that would be sin. However, if one gets rid of the thought that they are the doer, then everything that they will be doing will be correct. So now what's the verse that shows that? Verse 38, which you gave in the class. Cheating like pleasure and pain, gain or loss, victory and defeat, get ready for battle, thus you will not incur sin. Exactly. Only scripture in the world where it says you will not incur sin. So, however, if one gets rid of the thought that they are the doer, then everything they will do is correct. So that's kind of the example of how the whole material world is created. I am the doer. Therefore, the actions that a person does under the threefold modes of nature, thinking that he's a doer, prevent him getting peace of mind. This is a big difference between Eastern and Western thought. Western thought says that when one is acting, he should think that he is acting. In particular, when the Industrial Revolution came around 200 years ago and led to further scientific development, this attitude developed that I am the doer. If this is the case, then one is responsible for the success or the failure of the actions. Because people started thinking that they are the doers, they became unstable, they became insecure, and worries started piling up for them. And it's very straightforward. If you think that you are the doer, then there'll be worries. Nowadays, the East is even trying to follow this view, that I'm the doer. And this view that I am the doer is the biggest mistake. Our rishis have said it well, that I am not the doer. People now are getting worried all the time. They have this attitude that they try to think that they are not the doer, but they can't do it in the end. Guruji knows what happens. When a person thinks they are the doer, and then they accumulate karmas, then no doubt they'll get worries. But when a person is acting and saying, oh, I'm not the doer, with the senses, but continues thinking in the mind about the objects of the senses, then this is hypocritical. And this is what Shri Krishna is going to show us in the next verse, verse 6.